Welcome back. My name is Steve Kirby. In this video, we will be looking at the significance of Muslims taking oaths at the state and local levels, and then at the myth and reality of a Muslim taking an oath on the Quran. At state and local levels, public officials take an oath of office that includes swearing to support the U.S. Constitution. However, the phrase "so help me God" is not necessarily included in those oaths of office, which means that there is no reference to a deity. But as we saw previously, Islamic doctrine states that for an oath to be valid, it must be sworn in the name of Allah or one of his attributes. Consequently, from an Islamic doctrinal standpoint, a Muslim taking the oath of office at the state or local level in which there is no reference to a deity is, by virtue of that omission, not making a valid oath. At best, that Muslim is simply given a personal guarantee to support the U.S. Constitution, and according to Mohammad, a Muslim is allowed to violate that personal guarantee with minimal consequences. This was illustrated in the orders Muhammad would give to some of his military commanders as he sent them out against non-Muslims. When you lay siege to a fort and the besieged appeal to you for protection in the name of Allah and his Prophet, do not accord to them the guarantee of Allah and his Prophet, but accord to them your own guarantee and the guarantee of your companions. For it is a lesser sin that the security given by you or your companions be disregarded, than that the security granted in the name of Allah and his Prophet be violated. Muhammad's message to his military commanders was that they could personally promise protection to besieged non-Muslims, but when it became advantageous for the Muslims, the commander could disregard that promise and do what he wanted with the non-Muslims, who had likely already surrendered and been disarmed. What is the expiation for having disregarded a personal guarantee? Considering that the expiation for breaking an oath made in the name of Islam's God Allah could be as little as fasting during the daytime for 3 days, and the days don't even have to be consecutive, we can infer from Muhammad's words that the expiation for breaking a personal guarantee is even less, quote-unquote, demanding. Much has been made about Muslims swearing an oath of office using the Quran, so let's look at that. There is no requirement that when a Muslim makes an oath, he has to place his hand on the Quran in order for that oath to be valid. Swearing an oath in the name of Allah or one of his attributes is what makes the oath valid. But using a Quran when one takes an oath is not prohibited. In 2007, a myth was created that a congressional oath of office had been sworn on the Quran. In that year, newly elected Congressman Keith Ellison, a Muslim convert, received extensive news coverage when he was photographed holding his hand on Jefferson's Koran while he was supposedly taking his official congressional oath of office. In reality, Ellison had earlier joined the other members of Congress in taking the official oath of office. The media attention had been directed towards this incident, Ellison's subsequent private ceremonial oath of office. Here is how Ellison had described the matter a few days prior. "When I'm officially sworn in, I will do it the same exact way as every other congressperson-elect who was sworn in. We will all stand up and in unison lift our hand and swear to uphold that Constitution. And then later, in a private ceremony, of course I'll put my hand on a book that is the basis of my faith, which is Islam." In spite of Ellison's acknowledgement that he would be holding his hand on the Quran during a private ceremony that took place after he had already taken the official oath of office, the myth was born that he had taken his official congressional oath of office holding his hand on the Quran. 2 years later, that myth was given new life when on June 4th, 2009, then President Barack Obama had this to say about Congressman Ellison in his speech at Cairo University in Egypt. "And when the first Muslim American was recently elected to Congress, he took the oath to defend our Constitution using the same Holy Quran that one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, kept in his personal library." The myth of swearing an official oath on the Quran became widespread after the 2018 congressional elections. In January 2019, 2 newly elected Muslim members of Congress, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, took their official oath of office with the other members of Congress. Afterwards, each took a separate ceremonial oath of office with a hand on the Quran, as shown here. But the myth about Omar and Tlaib swearing the official oath of office on the Quran was spread by subsequent articles with misleading titles and misleading information in the articles themselves. However, there have been occasions in which the Quran was used for an official swearing-in ceremony. On February 8, 2019, Fadwa Hamoud was sworn in as Michigan's first Muslim Solicitor General. With her left hand on the Quran, Hamoud swore to support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Michigan, without making any reference to a deity. According to Islamic doctrine, she was simply making a personal guarantee to support those constitutions. On February 4th, 2020, Ibrahim Bekora became the first Muslim police chief of Paterson, New Jersey. During his swearing-in ceremony, he held his left hand on a Quran, swore to support the U.S. Constitution, and ended his oath of office with the words, "So help me God." However, according to Islamic doctrine, this was not a valid oath because it was not sworn in the name of Allah. As I showed in a previous video, the phrase "so help me God" used in this instance actually refers to the Judeo-Christian God, not the God of Islam. And as part of the Muslim Oath Project, I sent Hamoud and Bekor the 4 questions asking them to choose between Islamic doctrine or the US Constitution. Neither replied. Here is something else to consider. The federal oath of office requires the oath to be made without any purpose of evasion. In our next video, we will address how Islam specifically allows such evasion to occur when that oath is being made, and then wrap up this section on Islam and taking an oath. I encourage you to post this video series on social media and tell your friends and conservative groups about these videos. Thank you, and I look forward to being with you again soon.